Hey guys! In this video, we are going to build a Lego terrarium. We will also show how it changes and evolves over the course of 30 days. The first thing we're going to need is 4 construction panels. We have already cut them to our exact size. Since the plates will be used to build the terrarium, and the terrarium needs ventilation, we will need a set like this. The crown is already attached to the electric screwdriver, and the plate is marked "Drill". There are ugly burrs left on the plate, which should be carefully removed with a knife. Next, we need a grid and sealant. Behind the scenes, we have already glued the result. Also behind the scenes, we assembled the terrarium and fitted it with a front viewing glass. One of the side walls, as you can see with the ventilation. The next step for our Lego terrarium is to make a roof with ventilation. For this, we have a grid, 2 cardboard blanks, and for lighting LED tape and a battery pack to connect. Behind the scenes, we have already assembled the roof with ventilation into a single structure. All that remains is to attach the LED strip to the top. Now there is enough light inside the terrarium to keep an eye on things. This is especially noticeable when there is no general lighting, but only local lighting. In fact, when there is side lighting, the difference with and without lighting is just as noticeable. The next step is the interior. For this, we'll need building blocks. We will use them to build a small wall at the bottom of the terrarium. So we divided the terrarium into 2 zones, in proportions of about 60 and 40%. We also have a brick like this that will have a decorative function. And a few other elements, including the swing, a post with a guard, which will fulfill the function of order, and a Lego cactus in the middle. We have this general view of the terrarium without any living organisms. We leave the studio and go to the oak grove. The future inhabitants of our terrarium are very fond of oak soil. That's what's going to form the base of the soil, so we're going to get a lot of it. We'll also take some leaves and acorns that time has not spared. And even a piece of bark with moss. Maybe it will find a place. Prepare the soil. To do this, combine oak soil with quartz sand and mix. We also add peat moss, which can hold 20 times its weight in moisture. Remove the Lego cactus for a while, and fill the bottom of the terrarium with the prepared soil. We also collected small pieces of dead wood, which will perfectly complement the decoration. Water the soil. Add fresh and dry oak leaves. And the last element of decoration, stabilized moss. Now let's talk directly about the inhabitants of the Lego terrarium. We have 3 types of woodlice. The largest colony is called the dairy cow, or Porcellio laevis. I apologize in advance for my Latin pronunciation. And that's because this colony was bought to order. Many people think that woodlice are insects, but they are actually crustaceans, much more closely related to shrimp than to bugs. And like all crustaceans, they breathe through their gills, by extracting oxygen from the moisture in their environment. Therefore, it is necessary to maintain high humidity in their home. Woodlice are often kept as pets because they are very interesting to watch. There are even collectors who are obsessed with collecting as many varieties of these creatures as possible. There are some really exotic species. The dairy cow is one of them. We also have the black woodlice. Their colony will be the least numerous. We dug up these crustaceans when we were collecting soil under the oak tree. It turns out that looking for woodlice crustaceans is almost as exciting as looking for mushrooms in the forest. If we can identify them correctly, the Latin name is Porcellio scaber, or common woodlouse. Their distinctive feature is that they have a tail-like shape. Another characteristic is its size. The woodlice on your screens is 1.5 centimeters long, and this woodlice can't curl up into a ball. We haven't found any information about its reproductive rate. At the moment, we have only 9 woodlice. Let's see how the situation changes with time. And the third species of woodlice is called Armadillidium granulatum, or lemons because of its color. These woodlice were sold to us together with dairy cow, but only 12.5. Funny about these woodlice is not only the coloring, but also the frequent desire to curl up in a ball. And they can stay that way for a long time. This is a kind of defense. Pretending to be dead, it's basically a way of protecting themselves from predators. Obviously, the woodlice doesn't feel threatened by me because it's moving around on my arm so boldly. Looking at this footage, you can see why people like to admire the woodlice. It looks so peaceful. Let's move the woodlice to its new home, and we're going to start with the largest colony, the dairy cow. We've set aside a third of the terrarium for them. At first, the woodlice did not notice that their habitat had changed from a plastic container to a natural one, and behaved rather passively. Only a few started to explore the new territory. Just a few minutes and all the woodlice adapted to the new conditions. They came alive and started exploring the area. Now they are quite active. From the side, you can see how the ground is moved by their swarming. It's time to start the other 2 woodlice colonies. By the way, woodlice are considered to be incredibly peaceful creatures. They do not fight for territory and do not establish relationships among themselves. So on the left side of the terrarium, there will be 2 types of crustaceans at the same time, both yellow and black. They are still quite passive and are not in a hurry to show activity. This is especially true of the black woodlice. They prefer to sit in one place and show no signs of life, although there are exceptions such as this individual. After half an hour, almost all of them became active. These ones have moved to a dead tree. The yellow ones have also stirred up, but they will not disperse yet. Stay together. Generally so interesting that you can just sit and watch their leisurely behavior. This is how it looks at the border. Everyone is busy with their own business. 3 days later, we were sitting looking at our Lego terrarium and noticed that some yellow woodlice had sneaked across the border and were now in the right sector. The original idea was to keep them away from the dairy cow, but they didn't care about our plans. We also thought that the terrarium could use some vegetation, so we buried some of these grains in the ground. 4 days later, we had the first sprouts. Now our terrarium is one step closer to the conditions of wild nature. The tallest blade of grass here is 4 centimeters high. Not bamboo, of course, but an impressive growth rate. We take out a seed. It's funny that both the root and the shoot emerged from the same point. Only one part of the plant sprouted downward and the other upward. Even the woodlice seem to like this environment better. Now they feel even closer to nature, and they can travel through the thicket. There's another very interesting thing I want to check out. It is said that woodlice like to eat food for aquarium fish. Moreover, it is balanced. Pour a little near the glass to observe the behavior of the woodlice. So far, they prefer to swarm in the back corner of the terrarium. By the way, woodlice are naturally omnivorous. They eat mold, small larvae, oak leaves, tree debris. They don't go hungry. It's been a week since we planted the plants. The shoots continue to grow at a good pace. Meanwhile, the woodlice have eaten all the food of the aquarium fish. They have also started to congregate near the glass. Previously, the woodlice preferred to hang out in the opposite corner. By the way, our tallest blade of grass is already 11 centimeters long. It's only 1 week of growth, and we did not get greedy and added a new portion of food. Even a willing woodlice appeared right away. And here's a lemon moth underneath the dairy cow. What is it doing? Drinking water or making oxygen out of a drop of water? Our plants don't just grow from the top. Notice how many roots have developed underground. A very interesting and also strange observation. On the right side, where there are more woodlice, the plants grow worse for some reason. Could it be that the woodlice is trampling the grass? We've also found black woodlice on the right side. They're all attracted to the border for some reason. Social creatures are attracted to society. 5 days later, the grass was even taller, and dew began to appear at the top of the tips. We've managed to create an ecosystem as good as the wild. An interesting observation is that if you create complete darkness in the terrarium and then turn on the light sharply, you can find some woodlice on the grass. What are they doing? Are they collecting dew? By the way, they move much slower on the grass than on the ground. There are grains that are a little behind in their development and are just beginning to germinate. And there are some that have started to produce spikelets. We'll be harvesting soon. The difference between the height of the grass on the left and right has become even more significant. 20 days to the terrarium. Inside is a dense forest that is already cramped within the confines of our project, and underground, the root system reigns supreme. It's time to add a new life form to the terrarium. I think the praying mantis will love the wilderness atmosphere. He's already looking forward to his move. At first, it was frozen in one position. It's camouflaged in the green grass. If you don't know it's there, you won't notice it right away. After a while, the praying mantis took up an observation post, making it easier to keep an eye on everyone from above. A true hunter's instinct. The next morning, there was so much dew that the drops were literally dripping down the glass. That's very good, because we won't have to worry about drinking mantis. Here, it can quench its thirst without our interference. The mantis has moved to the ceiling. It's very close to the dewdrops. Since woodlice like to crawl through the grass, this will be an easy prey for the mantis. There's water, there's food. He can stay like this for a long time. It's been 30 days. Inside, the forest is impenetrable. It seems to be extremely difficult for a praying mantis to move around in these conditions, and the woodlice must feel like they're in the taiga. The lid is no longer able to contain the rapid growth, and the ventilation holes have become quite overgrown. The mantis can only be seen if you look closely. It prefers to hide upstairs. By the way, the rest of the acorn is still the tastiest bite for woodlice, so we take the lid off. And with the lid and the praying mantis, we put the green one back in its place, and it's looking at us with those eyes, as if it wants to say something. Maybe he's asking us to mow his lawn. So be it. If it's a lawn, it's a mower. And to tell the truth, with thickets like this, we can't even get down on the ground and analyze what happened to the woodlice for a month in the terrarium. We can only see the ones that come up to the glass. That's the amount of excess grass we cut from the lawn. And the praying mantis is the first to appreciate our efforts. It's time to see what's at the bottom. We pulled out a piece of bark, and there were some small black woodlice on it. The size was no more than 5 millimeters, and this was one of the largest that had taken over the old piece of wood. The adults were about 2 centimeters long. The breeding process has started. There are more yellow woodlice even near the glass than a month ago. And here we have a piece of bark where only yellow woodlice have settled. Do they not let anyone else in here? Who would have thought they were such a family? You can compare the size of the smallest one with a toothpick. And the dairy cow, they've taken over every corner of the terrarium. We turned off the lights for half an hour, and Dairy Cow decided it was a good time to take a walk in the grass. And woodlice of all kinds have crawled out to meet the praying mantis. He's going to have a great choice for lunch. And you have the choice to like this video or dislike. That's all for now. Bye-bye.